So we're going to look at factorizing today. Particularly, we're going to look at factorizing quadratics, which are these ones down here. But when you're doing any sort of factorizing, what's the first thing you need to do? Yeah, you need to look for a common factor first. So if you're factorizing this one here, what's the common factor that's in 4x squared and 24x? Not just the 4.
4 and 6.
Okay, there's a 4 and an x there. Okay, it's like that's the answer. What was the question? What goes into 4x squared and 24x? We're saying 4x does. 4x times x gives you 4x squared, and 4x times positive 6 gives you the 24x. So there is your bracket. There is your factorized. There's the bracket, and that's it factorized. Okay, that's the first step. Always look for a common factor. The next step is if you factorize it, in other words, this has been done wrong, after you've taken out the common factor, can that part there, or does that have a factor? Does 2x and 12 have a factor?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a factor of 2a. So that's why I would take 2 out the front again, and that's where the 4x comes from the very first question. Okay? It's more just like a check process. Look for the common factor, just double check that the bracket doesn't have another factor in it. Okay? Sometimes that bracket might be a quadratic. We need to be able to solve, we need to be able to factorize a quadratic. So here are some quadratics just here. Now how do we factorize those quadratics? Yeah, so we're looking at this number here and that number there, right? Okay, because that expression there, where does that come from? It comes from expanding two brackets in this box, eh? And so that's where the x squared goes, and that's where the 8 goes, doesn't it? And so that has to be x, and that has to be x, and then there has to be some number here and some number there. And those two numbers will multiply to, and then they will add together to give you the. And so you just have to come up with these numbers and go, okay, well let's go with 4x and 2x. Because 4x and 2x add to, and the 4 and the 2 add to the, so multiply to the 8. Yep, good. They are positive. So that factorizes to the x plus 4, x plus 2. Any questions with that one? Hopefully you've done that and you remember that. Next one here, what are we looking at? Well, there's an x squared, there's negative 10. What are the two numbers that multiply to negative 10 that add to negative 3? 2 and 5. Negative 5, yep, good. Okay, so it's x and x, that's minus 5, that's positive 2, so that's x minus 5 and x plus 2. Doesn't matter which order those brackets are in. Cool. So now we're going to start getting on to the harder ones. Those ones are your basic quadratics that hopefully you'll understand. The next ones are the harder quadratics. So how do we factorize the top one then? Always look for a common factor first. Is there a common factor with 4x squared, 24x and 20? 4 goes in there. Okay, so what do? 4 bracket x squared plus 6x plus 5. Happy with that? Now what do? Look for my bracket. Can my bracket be factorized? Yeah, because it's a quadratic equation. Okay, and so at the moment, for you guys, it's quadratics, it will factorize. So there's my x squared here, that's where my 5 goes. What are going to be there? 5 and 1, because 5 times 1 is, and 5 plus 1 is, okay, so that leaves you with x plus 5 and x plus 1. Sorry, all times 4. Yep. Happy with that? Okay. Next question, because these are where it gets harder. What about the next question? Is there a common factor? There's no common factor there. Is it a quadratic equation?
Yeah.
How do you know it's a quadratic? Because it's an x squared. And so therefore you need to be able to identify it's an x squared, and therefore it will go into 2 brackets. Yeah? All x squareds don't go into 2 brackets, but this particular one does. So there's my x squared, there's my negative 16, so there's my x and x. What goes where? Yeah. These 2 numbers have to add together to give you 0. And it's really important you understand that. And so the 2 numbers multiplied to the 16 will be itself. It's number times itself. That there is called the difference of 2 squares. It's really important you can identify a difference of 2 squares. That pops up all sorts of places. Level 1, level 2, and level 3. Any questions with those ones? That's your basic quadratic factorizing. Okay? Any questions with those ones?
Oh, for the
So these are the harder ones. Why are these ones the harder ones? No common factors, and it's a 2x squared, or in the next equation it's a 6x squared. Okay? But because it's a 2x squared, it's not just a simple one. So, what do we do? It's come from this, eh? It's come from that because it's a quadratic and there's no common factors. So it's come from this box, and as Alexander was saying, this is where the 2x squared goes, and that's where the negative 3 goes. But what are these numbers here? Okay, that's what you've got to figure out. Okay, and the tip is to go, what is 2 times negative 3? 2 times 3 is negative 6. Okay, so 2 times 3 is negative 6. Why does that help? It's because these 2 numbers here, will now add to the negative 6. Anyway, those 2 numbers will multiply to the negative 6. They will still add to the positive 5. So what are 2 numbers that multiply to negative 6 that add to 5? Negative 1 and 5?
negative 1 and 6.
Negative 1 and 6. They multiply to this one. There should be probably a time to know. Multiply to that, and they add to that one there. So we're saying negative 1 and 6. Okay, so if I put the negative 1 there and the positive 6 there, they now add to that positive 5x. Like that there is the same as that expression up top here, eh? That box expands to give you that answer, doesn't it not? Okay, so now can we factor on? What's the common factor along here? Along this row, the common factor is, by giving that one number, or letter, or whatever you want to call it, one variable, the rest of that box can be solved. Because it's going to be x times what gives you 2x squared. 2x times what gives you the positive 6x.
Right.
X times what gives you negative x. Negative 1 times 3 gives you. And so my factorized answer happens to be 2x minus 1, x plus 3. Okay? And again, I'll show you another one here, and I'll hopefully not get this one mixed up. What do? Yeah, we do the 2 times the negative 2. What is 2 times negative 2?
Negative 4.
Good. Why is negative 4 helpful? So the numbers now times the negative 4 that add to 3. What are 2 numbers that multiply to negative 4 that add to 3? Negative 1 and 4. Okay? So, filling in the rest of this box, that's where my 2x squared would come from. That's where the negative 2 is. And the 3 comes from 4x and the negative x. Or negative 1x if you wanted to. No, because it would just be that row there would actually be that column there. Okay? So what's the common factor between 2x squared and 4x? 2x. By getting that 1 there, the rest of it falls into place. Because 2x times x gives you that. 2x times 2 gives you that. Or specifically positive 2. X times negative 1. Negative 1 times 2 gives you negative 2. So 2x minus 1, x plus 2 is my factorized answer. Can we see that? With the box, I think it makes it a lot easier to see. My previous attempts, what I've tried to do was factorize by taking the common factor of the first 2 terms and stuff. So I won't show you the other one. Okay. So have a crack at this next one. So you've had about a minute or so now to attempt that. What's the process? What's the first thing you do? 6 times negative 12, the first power on the last color, apparently. You get to be negative 72. What are 2 numbers that multiply to negative 72 that add to positive 1? Yeah, 9 and negative 8. Okay? 9 times negative 8, 9 plus negative 8. That's what we need. So this is going to be a 9x. That's going to be negative 8x. This here is going to be 6x squared. That's going to be negative 12 from my original equation. And now we're just going to go, what goes where? What's the common factor just there? Looking down, a 3 goes into 6 and x. 3x times 2x gives you 6x squared. 3x times 3 gives you 9x. 2x times negative 4 gives you negative 8x. And check 3 times negative 4. Yeah, that is negative 12. So my answer is 3x minus 4 times 2x plus 3. I probably should have had a plus 3 there. So I try to remember. I often forget, obviously. But there is it factorized. Okay. If you can factorize a quadratic, how does that help you? So it helps you when you are solving quadratic. Yeah, good. Yeah. Okay.